Welcome to Mortgage Masterminds. I'm Richard Grieser, VP of Marketing at Sales Boomerang, and my guest is Eric Capehart, Director of Digital Mortgage at Synergy One Lending. Eric, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's get into this. But
All
first,
right.
let me do a quick preamble. In case you don't know who we are at Sales Boomerang and Mortgage Coach, we've been living under a rock since 2017 for sure. Sales Boomerang notifies lenders the moment one of their borrowers needs a loan, and Mortgage Coach makes the right choice, the right loan choice. Super simple, fast, and clear for that borrower. So, look, if you don't know what Mortgage Coach or Sales Boomerang are, go check it out. We'd love to have a conversation with you, especially in these market times. Anyways, moving on. Eric, um, I'm excited for this episode. We had a really good conversation leading up to this. So let's get right into it. But first, why don't you tell me a little bit of background about you, how long you've been in the industry, how you got to Synergy One, and kind of how things are going.
Yeah, for sure. So, again, thanks for having me on. So, I've been in the mortgage space for roughly 7 years. More recently, with Synergy One Lending, I've been with the company for close to a year and a half at this point. I came in at that point really because I was looking for the next step in my own journey and looking to join some like-minded people when it comes to really really taking full advantage of technology and the consumer experience. And that's what I saw in Synergy One Lending and their mission to provide the modern mortgage experience. I knew tons of people that I've met throughout my career on the sales side, on the origination side, were coming over to Synergy One at that time. Our president, Aaron Nemec, he and I had a good relationship already as well. And so it was just a matter of having some of those conversations around really reinforcing the fact that we were like-minded. And so as soon as I saw that, I was all in. And so it was a great start to that relationship, and I'm happy to be here.
Cool. You want to just, for anybody who doesn't know Synergy One very well, like what kind of size company is it? What is your, are you consumer direct, retail, that kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. So Synergy One Lending, we are a very unique company in a lot of ways. So Synergy One Lending's gone through an evolution. Our current leadership actually bought out the existing Synergy One Lending a couple years back at this point, and that is our CEO Steve Majerus, as well as our president Aaron Nemec, and a handful of others within our leadership team. They took that as an opportunity to turn this organization into what it is today, which is a driver of that digital experience through mortgage. We are based out of San Diego, but we're kind of all over the place. I'm personally am based out of the Salt Lake area, as well as a handful of other people on the team are over here as well. But our leadership team's kind of scattered throughout, and we're slowly making our way from the West Coast to the East Coast. At this point, just this month, we had a couple more state licenses come through. So we are basically nationwide at this point. We are a purchase focused lender, but of course, we're covering the whole gamut. We're doing everything available to us. We did more recently launch a consumer direct division of the company by the name of Loan Life. So if you see Loan Life out there on social media, that's what that is. Or that division is very much streamlining the process of consumer direct, really leaning in on digital presence and social media, and just having that presence out in the marketplace.
Awesome. Awesome. That's a good overview, I think. So let's get into the main topic here. Um, why don't you start by defining, in your words, what the modern mortgage experience is?
The word modern can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. People can interpret that however they may. Modern means something to every different person, but really it's a matter of staying on top of consumer expectations, right? And so within the mortgage space specifically, you think about technology, which is one of my main areas of focus within the organization. And the fear that a lot of people have is that technology is going to replace us all, right? Regardless of what industry we're discussing, it can be service industry, it can be finance, any of the above. But in reality, when you think about modern experiences and how we're integrating technology into the services we're providing, it's not to replace what we're doing, but it's to elevate what we're doing. So, my definition of the modern mortgage experience is really a balance of automation technology and human interaction. what people are looking for in the mortgage experience is really guidance. You look at some of the digital landscape, the mortgage landscape that exists today, and there are all sorts of organizations that want to be the disruptors of the industry. And they might be on the right track, but my thought is you can't cut out that human element. You can't look to circumvent that human element, because while people's desire for a streamlined experience or an automated experience technology, while that is increasing, consumer distrust, especially within the financial industry, is at an all-time high. And so how do you combat that? How do you balance that? How do you overcome the distrust that the average consumer has when it comes to finances, when it comes to lending, while also trying to make their experience quick and simple and frictionless by embedding technology in that experience? You have to have both. And so what my goal is, what my desire is within Synergy One Lending, is to create an experience where any piece of technology we leverage, any tool, it's going to enhance both the consumer experience as well as the loan officer experience. We want to lift up, we want to elevate that loan officer rather than look to replace them or replace anyone on their team.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. One of the things you said was expectations, and I was just thinking about just how high the average consumer's expectations are these days for
Yeah.
everything. I mean, we really pushed the bar with the digital experience of like the banking apps on your phone, for example. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I just bought a home recently, and I can tell you it did not meet that expectation in terms of the modern, just the modern on the technology side. There was
Yeah.
definitely not like a Amazon one click purchase. No, definitely not that. Think I had to submit all my documents twice. I think that's kind of the average experience. Are we
Yeah.
going to be
Yeah.
able to make this better as an industry, Eric? I mean, is this always going to be this way? Is it always going to be like this painful, 3-month process from the first conversation to actually getting a home? Once you find the home, right, and you get an accepted offer. But I mean, what do you think? Is it going to get better?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it has gotten better in many ways for many people, but it all depends on your outlook and how you are striving to achieve that goal of what you define as better, right? Because the thing that often happens when you look to implement technology in particular to try and make things better is you chase the shiny objects. Unfortunately, that happens all of the time, whether it be a marketing tool, a point of sale application, any of those types of things. Is you God bless them. We have all of the B2B salespeople, not necessarily referring to anyone in your space per se, but um, but as we look at all of these tech startups, particularly, everyone's going after the the people in my seat, the people who want to be modern, the people who want to take that next step, insert this piece of technology. And so where
100%. Yeah, you're
these
right.
where these organizations end up, though, is they do get sold. They see the fancy shiny object and they say, okay, let's sign up, sign me up, let's make this our process, without looking at it on a macro level, looking at the whole picture of how does this play a role while these other things that we also signed up for are also playing a role, and how do they all integrate and work together to create one cohesive experience. Because I think that's where we encounter a lot of these challenges within our industry is you start throwing too many things at the wall to see what sticks, and ultimately it becomes a disjointed experience rather than a more streamlined experience. And that's where you end up in those circumstances like what you went through, where, hey, I already provided you these docs you asked for in the way you asked me to provide them to you. You're saying you don't have them, I need to give them to you again. So now there's that distrust, right? Because now it's not just the annoyance of having to give somebody something twice, it's also that level of distrust of, I'm supposed to be trusting you with the most emotional, most substantial transaction of my life, providing you all of this very personal information and confidential information, and you're saying you don't have the stuff I just gave you. And so it becomes a question of, do you not know what you're doing, or are you being deceptive, or somewhere in between the two? And that's the exact opposite of what we want to do by implementing this technology versus a well thought out strategy. So to go back to your actual question, no, it's not going to be this disjointed, slow, boggy experience from here on out, but only if we as lender organizations choose to take those next steps in a thoughtful manner.
Oh, that's a good answer. I like the way you answered it. So one of the things you told me when we were talking before was that tech enhances or should enhance what you're already doing. And I was wondering if
100%.
you could just kind of talk about a couple examples, just a couple examples you have of something that, has essentially you were already doing it, but just technology just made it better.
So if you think about, on the loan originator side of things, what the role of a loan originator is, you can really simplify that down to the actual definition of that, of originating a loan and structuring a loan. But to me, that's kind of baseline. That's what is required of us to provide as a service to home buyers, to anybody who's in need of home financing. But where we really have the ability to provide superior service and really step up to the plate is by really acting as a guide for that borrower, helping them understand their financial situation and the financial opportunities that they have in the process that they're going through, whether it be a purchase or a refinance.
Hmm.
And so the best loan officers in our field already do that. They are naturally guiding borrowers, naturally guiding consumers through their options, through their opportunities, showing them things that the average consumer would have no concept of, and breaking it down and simplifying it into a way that they understand. And that's where you build that trust, by the way, is by doing that, because now you are providing them the value that they could not get anywhere else. And you've established yourself as a knowledgeable individual who can actually explain it in a way that makes sense to them. But where you have the opportunity to elevate that experience even further by implementing technology is by finding ways to make that even simpler on both sides of the table, for loan officer and for consumer. So if you think about tools such as your own mortgage coach, you think about how that is able to visually detail those options for a consumer. I don't know about you, but I'm a very visual learner.
Hmm.
Somebody can explain something to me, over the phone or even in an office somewhere, and I can try and break that down, but in my head I'm trying to visualize it. And so by having a piece of technology that can break that down visually and make it really easy to understand for the consumer, that helps make that experience that much more efficient for both involved. One thing that we've done at Synergy One Lending more recently is we launched a financial wellness app, S1 FinFit. So S1 FinFit really plays into that. It leans into that mentality because we understand that everybody is at a different place in their financial journey. And so, whether they are ready to buy a home today, whether they have absolutely no clue whether they're ready to buy a home or not, whether they already made a home purchase and they want to know, what's the next opportunity in their financial journey, we built this app that's basically the full end to end experience as far as financial wellness. We want people to be able to set goals for themselves for home purchase or otherwise. Maybe they want to buy a car, maybe they want to build their nest egg savings. And so we developed this app S1 FinFit that it basically allows people to leverage this as a tool to guide them through that process, regardless of where they are. And so, in that same vein, this is now elevating us as an organization and elevating our loan officers to be able to provide that guidance long term. We want to create customers for life. That's our objective. And so, it's the technology that allows us to do that more comprehensively and with more ease.
That's awesome. So you have your own app called FinFit that and your borrowers are interacting with this. Is this post? post like close on the mortgage, or is it? I mean, do they keep using the app afterwards, or is it more pre?
All of the above. So that's the great thing about this app that we've more recently deployed. So we deployed it to market a couple months back. So our first deployment of S1 FinFit, we wanted to engage our existing database of clients. So we deployed it to all funded borrowers. So that way we could get people into it and start seeing what those real experiences are. But our ultimate goal is that this will serve as a financial planning and wellness tool even well before somebody gets to the home purchase process. So part of our mission, where we want to go as an organization, is really to help serve the underserved communities when it comes to homeownership. Where we're doing all sorts of things to try and open up opportunities to people who otherwise would not have had the knowledge, the financial wellness knowledge, the opportunity to get into a home, at least in the near term. And so, we recently rolled out our Renters Advantage program where we're taking advantage of people's on time rent payment histories in their AUS runs. And so, in that same light, where we've launched S1 FinFit, where if somebody's truly, they have no idea if they are financially ready to purchase a home, we can leverage this app. We can provide this to them as a tool where it has the ability to actually do a mortgage readiness assessment, and it'll give them a realistic picture of, are you in a good place now? Or would it make more sense for you to be in that place 6 months, a year from now, if you set up this game plan for yourself within the app? And so for us, that's obviously a huge benefit because now we're the ones providing that value, giving that game plan that essentially leads back to our originators who put it in their hands in the first place. And then once they actually do go through that transaction process, again, sticking to that mentality of customer for life, we now give them tools for managing the finances of their home. Hey, this is my home value. This is how my equity has grown. This is how the value has shifted due to market changes. Now I get the opportunity to set my next goal. Do I want to look at, hey, maybe I want to find out if an investment opportunity makes sense, an investment purchase, or maybe it's not even that. Maybe it is, I just want to be more on top of my finances. The app actually will allow for you to connect to your financial institutions, your bank accounts, pull all that in, and it automatically breaks down your expenses categorically month over month. So you can see, hey, am I spending too much money eating out? Am I, you know, overestimating or underestimating how much my gas expenses are, those types of things. And so we don't want to just be the company that does your loan and that's it. We want to be the company that is helping you really see your financial wellness opportunities.
This is an app you download from the App Store, like Apple App Store and Google
Yep,
Play and all
yeah.
that.
Yep, it's available on Apple and Android. Right now it is more or less invite only, so you can go to the App Store or Google Play and download it, but you'll need an invitation code to access it. And so that's one of the great things about how we've deployed this to benefit our loan originators, is that those invite codes are specific to each loan originator. So they get to use that as basically their opportunity to engage a consumer. So even if they're in line at Starbucks and they start up a conversation with somebody in line or with their barista about, the opportunity for home ownership or just financial wellness in general, they have the opportunity to say, hey, if you want to go download this app, here's my code. I'll text it to you real quick. And now those people are linked to one another. That loan officer now kind of has that person in their database to nurture. So even if they're not ready to buy a home yet, or even if it's just kind of a thought in their back of their mind, when that time comes, they're the person. They're there.
Boy, that's cool. So, you can set goals in this app like
You
that. Like
can.
that is
Yeah.
awesome. And does it you do are you getting data from sources that actually update the home value and then
Yep.
show what their equity stance is in the app?
Yeah, their equity will update monthly. So every month they're getting a new home valuation based off of actual market data. So that's all feeding into there,
You must have
as
people
well as,
logging in like all the time over the
oh
last couple of
yeah,
years to
yeah.
watch that.
Well, it's so
I
funny
mean,
because
sorry,
if
the
you
last
think
couple of months.
about, yeah, if you think about the gamification of some of this stuff. One of the
Yeah.
other features that S1 FinFit has in it is credit monitoring as well. So you can actually check your credit score within the app. And it's so funny to see, as people engage in these types of tools, it becomes gamified to the point where they're obsessed with it. They want to see, did it go up a point? Did it go down a point based off of all of these things? One of my favorite features actually is the credit simulator. So within the credit section of the app, you can actually go in and see, okay, if let's say I've got these three credit cards, what if I just combined that debt into one credit card and closed the other two? What effect would that have on my credit score? And it'll actually simulate the positive or negative impact of those decisions for you. So you can make
Geez, that's
more
a lot like
educated
Mortgage Coach.
decisions. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
That
very,
is
very
awesome.
similar in nature, and it has that visual appeal to it as well, where you're seeing kind of that circle graph of your credit score move and ebb and flow based off of those decisions. So it's incredibly engaging.
Well, I'm getting a little threatened here as someone working at a tech company because you're talking about elements of kind of what mortgage a little bit about what Mortgage Coach kind of does, kind of on the surface level, and then you're talking about like things like HomeBot and like places like that, that's their specialty. It's pretty awesome that you guys are building this yourself. You sound like a tech company and not like a mortgage company.
That's exactly how where we hope to be. Is we want to be uh, a driver within the fintech space, not just your average old mortgage lender.
That's really cool, man. It's funny. Capital One's slogan is the bank. Their slogan is a tech company that happens to be a bank, or whatever that is. I
Right?
forget what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah,
It's pretty funny. You guys sound like you're going down that path, but you know what? It's certainly worked for a lot of financial institutions. I mean, just like you're saying, consumers expect more at the end of the day. And if you're not getting that from your tech vendor partners, build it in house like you're doing. You're describing. That's pretty cool. So your
yeah.
product roadmaps have got to be pretty deep, huh?
Yeah, it's just as the marketplace, it's a constant evolution. We ultimately, as I kind of referenced to one of your prior questions, every decision has to be measured against the overarching goal, which for us it is providing that experience for people, enhancing the experience, and helping provide financial wellness in a manner in which your average consumers expect. If you think about what consumer expectations are nowadays, you think about the Amazons of the world. That's kind of, Amazon's an easy one to reference. Apple's an easy one to reference, but those guys have kind of driven what consumer expectations currently are, and it is that speed, that frictionless process. One of our mantras at Synergy One Lending is speed, ease, and expertise. We want a balance of speed, ease, and expertise, and that's what everything we do has to fit within that idea. Does it help increase speed? Does it make the process easier? And does it help elevate our expertise that we're using to educate the consumer?
Speed, ease, and expertise. I have to remember that. That is really good. Typically, when I talk to a lot of guests, when I ask who is their customer, I'll ask you that question. The answer I typically get is the loan officer. I exist to serve the loan officers of the company. I'm thinking, based on what I'm hearing, you're going to answer that a little bit differently, but I'll let you go.
Well, it is an interesting question because I do often think that answer. Of course, my customer is the loan officer, but I also understand that their customer is the end consumer, and so it's that waterfall effect, right? So you have to think about everyone involved in the process is ultimately my customer, whether it be the loan officer, the borrower, a referral partner, everyone involved in that process. We want to provide a better experience all around. That's my goal, is to provide a better experience regardless of who it is in that transaction or in that process. If you think about how we've deployed our point of sale platform S1 Connect, I often describe that when we have new loan officers joining our company, I often describe it as this is the central hub of communication for everyone involved in the process, whether it be you, the borrower, the real estate agent, or processor, a transaction coordinator. We want this to be the one stop hub of communication for everybody to make that process really convenient. We want to make sure that nothing's getting dropped because you're having to jump between multiple platforms. And so it's kind of maybe a cop out answer, but my answer truly is it's everyone involved in the process is my customer.
Yeah, no, no, it's not a cop out answer. I mean, the people that hired you are definitely a customer. I think the loan officers that you serve are definitely a customer, and the borrower is definitely a customer. You definitely have all three. Um, and I would argue that you know, yeah, and some people could argue that vendors are even a customer if they're doing enough of a service for you, but it's
Sure.
usually the reverse. I think a good vendor relationship actually treats your business like it's their own business, right? And so you were
Right.
both kind of basically sitting at the table at the same time. But that gets my last question that I have for you, Eric. I want to just know a little bit about what tech do you think is exceptional out there in terms of creating that mortgage modern experience and the modern mortgage experience, and what is your strategy when you want to like evaluate one of these new? Because there's so many new tech coming out all
Oh
the
yeah,
time.
they're
So your inbox on LinkedIn must be full, I'm sure.
yeah, yep, yeah. If anyone has reached out to me via email or LinkedIn with your tech product, I apologize if we haven't had the opportunity to engage. But again, it's that shiny object syndrome. I gotta have some sort of barrier barrier there. But yeah, there's so much going on in the tech space currently that it can be really difficult to evaluate what's going to be effective and understand what's going to be exceptional versus what is the momentary shiny object. And I think with anything you have to really, again, take a step back and look at your process as a whole. There, of all of the companies out there, all the mortgage lending companies that exist, we kind of all have the same pool of vendors to work with to a degree, and
Yep.
we can pluck things off the shelf and try and market them, however we're going to market them. But it really comes down to the process you're curating. Every company has the opportunity to curate their own experience, curate their own process through technology and through just internal processes as well. And then every loan officer has the opportunity to customize that to their own persona as well. And so when you're thinking about tech partnerships, you have to think about that level of adaptability too. Yes, this partner, this vendor is trying to work with all of these other companies that you're also competing with. How are you going to be able to take their product, integrate it into your own workflow, and use that to elevate the experience rather than complicate the experience? And so, the ability for their platforms to support what you're already doing and be adaptable enough to fit the experience that you want to curate is really what you have to look at. And so if you think about the value that any tech platform is going to provide, it either needs to enhance the experience you're already providing or create opportunities for experiences that wouldn't already be there. So if you think about Sales Boomerang, for instance, Sales Boomerang is creating opportunities that loan officers may not have had the chance to evaluate otherwise. They wouldn't have known that those opportunities existed. If you look at Mortgage Coach, it's helping elevate the experience. You guys kind of get, just like your shirt says, the sweetest combination now because you get to do both through your
Yep.
two different products. And so that's really what you have to look for as you're going through and doing these evaluations, because otherwise you're going to end up with a mess. You have to truly map out what you want your end experience to be and figure out where in that map, even if you have to visually map it, where in that map do these different platforms lie? If you're familiar with, I'm a big fan of StoryBrand. It's a It's a kind of marketing consultation organization. There's a book by the name of it as well. And their whole idea is that the most effective marketing communication follows a story framework where you have your main character, they encounter a problem, they meet a guide who gives them a plan, calls them to action to overcome that problem that they have. And so one exercise I've gone through with a lot of our tech partnerships, and I've done this numerous times, is really actually visually map out that storyline and say, okay, where does this piece of technology fit on the storyline?
Hmm.
And if you can't figure that out, if you don't know the answer to that question, then it probably doesn't fit in the storyline. It's as simple as
Yep.
that.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. I know exactly. I forget there's a name for it. There's a name for the classic the storyline that you're talking about, the archetype, the architecting of that. I forget what
Mhm.
it is, but there's always that where where the main character hits that low, right? Where it's and that's what that actually is necessary in any good story. You really have to hit that low point
Yep.
because then going back up doesn't mean anything if you don't hit that low point, right? Um, the happy ending, the classic story. So like, yeah, I love that. Well, look, Eric, this was amazing. I want to get you talking to our on a webinar with our VP of product, Mike, and probably our co-founder, Alex Kutsichin, because I mean, you just exhibit the philosophies that we live by, right here at Sales Boomerang and Mortgage Coach. I mean, um, Alex calls it Lego tech, making sure all your tech fits together like Legos,
Oh, I like that.
right?
Yeah.
You can steal that.
Lego tech.
Totally
Yeah.
fine. Just say it was
You
yours.
need to make a t-shirt out of that.
Oh, yeah, I like it. It's a really good idea. I think we could create an awesome T-shirt with that. Thanks for listening. If you like the podcast, please give us a 5-star rating, subscribe, and tell all your friends about the show. We at Sales Boomerang started this podcast to elevate the mortgage lending industry by sharing the kind of exclusive, insider knowledge from the successes and failures of the best of the best. The foundation of every successful lender is borrower retention. Sales Boomerang is the #1 fully automated borrower retention system in the industry. 1 in 2 of the biggest lending companies in the United States use Sales Boomerang to make sure they reach out to their borrowers when they need a loan, and more importantly, before their competitors do. If you want to learn more about Sales Boomerang, check us out at salesboomerang.com.